welcome to Talking to Fastlane. I want to say I really appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Right on.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, first thing I want to talk about, obviously, is the new album, Out of the Darkness, which is a fantastic record. I mean, I got a chance to listen through it, a couple of times through, and it's been out for about a month now, correct? About a
Yes.
month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tomorrow would be 1 month. Yep.
That's
Oh, that was
crazy. It doesn't
bad.
even seem like it's been that long, huh?
Yeah. Thank you for the
It's gone
compliments.
quick.
Yeah, it goes fast for sure. So let's talk about that. Tell us, how's the feedback been? I mean, I obviously love it, and I've been hearing some good things from other people that I shared it with. How about you guys? I mean, what's been the reaction from the fans? And how's it been doing for you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's been a fantastic reaction. I mean, it seems like every day we've been getting an order from here, from there. We've gotten orders from as far as Japan. We're getting messages constantly, from people online telling us, "Oh, we love this record. We love the songs on it. The writing, all this stuff." So, I mean, the reaction's been great, and I can't be happier about it. It's ecstatic.
It's great to hear it too. I mean, I think what I like so much about this record and what you guys do is there's a lot of variation of styles and sounds, and I think it comes together very nicely. You know, a lot of the stuff that I get, a lot of the power metal releases or anything on that side, there's a lot of things that are cookie cutter. There's a lot of bands that don't really, mix it up. But what I love that you do is bring in all these different, styles and substances, and there's a lot of depth to this. I look at like obviously the opening track, Cosmic Conclusion, which I think is a great song. But going
Thank you.
straight through, to the Creeper and the King Diamond style of Terraform, you know, what I think is cool is you mix that prog style too. Tell us about, how this album came about and the writing styles, because it's a good listen, and it's nice for, a fan like me to be able to go through and say, hey, this is cool how they brought this piece in and how they did this. It's a great listen.
Yeah. Brent.
Right on. Well, with this particular record, we had some more writers. We had Bill come in, and he came in very strong. We had Bill write 4 of the tunes. Eric wrote 4 of the tunes. I actually had an old song that we put on there, and then we had an old guitar player, Cody, wrote a tune as well. So we had more writers, and the level of talent has definitely gone up as the changes in the band have occurred. Once we acquired Bill, and then we acquired Dan as well. Of course, Dan came in after the record, but I think that part of the reason for the depth of the album is the different writers, and we put a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this record. We really took our time with it and finally crafted it, is what I would say. And we're very happy with it.
Dan's bass is on the record, just not Dan yet.
Hey, you're
Yeah,
on there, Dan. That's the main thing.
I got a random call one day from Bill, said, hey, can I borrow a bass? And I didn't even ask why. He had it for about a month or two. And then next thing I know, it's like, hey, cool. You recorded an album with it. So.
Hey, that's the way. I mean, that's how music reaches, man. You got to bring in, instrument gets on an album, and you get the kudos for it.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
And actually, you can't see it because I have it blurred and it's out of the camera. But the only bass I have it's a $75 pawn shop bass that I got about 6 years ago, and it's got the same strings on it. So I use that to demo stuff because
Right.
if I have money to spend on an instrument, it's going to be another guitar or something. It's not going to be a bass.
Right.
But I forget what happened. Eric was over and we had to redo the bass track for Terraform, and we didn't have a nice bass anymore. And Eric has a nice bass, but it was hundreds of miles away. And we're like, well, let's just put down a scratch track. We'll go in the studio, then we'll retrack it before we do the final mix. And so he grabbed that $75 bass off the wall and played it, and we got in the studio and started mixing it, and it sounded good. And that's what you hear on the song Terraform is that old crappy bass. I don't even know what brand it is.
Hey, that's cool.
Rogue. It's a rogue bass. If anybody has Rogue,
That's a perfect word for that too, huh?
Yeah.
yeah, it is Rogue.
That's cool to hear. That's a great story. I wanted to talk about a few songs on this album, and one of the songs that stands out to me is "Entity," and I think it's amazing because it's the flow of that, and that's kind of like an epic sound, and Eric's vocal, which I think is fantastic with that. Tell us about that because that's kind of like a different piece of this too. It's more of that slower flow, dark, but it really comes together nicely right in the center of this album, in fact.
Right on. That one's actually that's my baby. That's when I started playing, I started on keyboards. I never got very good. I mean, it's a very simple keyboard part, but it's something that I've had the gist of it basically since I was about 15, and I've demoed it a few times, and then it finally came to be the right time to do it. And the bulk of the tune I wrote, and then Bill put an amazing outro on it. And then when we were doing it, he's like, why don't we it's an epic style tune. Why don't we use it for all it's worth? Let's put an intro on it as well. So I called an old friend of mine, a guy by the name of Rob Scavito, and he did the keyboard intro, which is Prelude to Eternity. And I thought he did a really killer job. He really kind of captured the essence of it. And then Eric helped me put the lyrics to put the melody to the lyrics and the placement in the song and whatnot. And that was a really, really fun experience. Me and Eric doing that together. I mean, I really, really enjoyed that. I think we captured something there, and it's got definitely, I would say, more of an old school feel than any of the other songs on the record. It's very different. And it's keyboard driven. But yeah, I mean, that, like I said, that one's my baby. I was really, really happy. The guys really, all of us together brought it to fruition. And that's, I don't know. I'm just ecstatic with it. I was just so happy of the way it came out.
That's cool.
And it was your debut of playing Glockenspiel. Of all the albums you've ever been on.
Well, not exactly the debut, though.
Oh,
I
was it?
recorded
Okay.
Glockenspiel on my very first recording in 1987.
Okay.
But that was the first time I recorded it again. So
Well,
it's
there's no Brent Smedley Glockenspiel on any Iced Earth CD, as far as I'm aware. So
nope.
Yeah, for the debut.
That's the chorus part. For that, we were trying to find a sound on the keyboards. It's like, it's not really working. That's not really working. And then the engineer where we recorded at, Stan Martell, he's like, well, what did you do it on originally? I was like, a Glockenspiel. He's like, well, do you still have it? I was like, matter of fact, I do.
Right.
Well, just bring that. We're trying to find the right sound, and it worked. So, but yeah, that one's definitely different.
That's
Recording
cool to
in
have.
stereo.
That's cool to have something, that you've been, nurturing that long and be able to bring it to it. So, I can hear that, that passion, in your voice about that. I think that's cool because that's what the fans like to hear. I mean, they like to, be able to listen, when they do hear this, that to listen to that song and they listen to it differently now because they know the background story of it. And that's kind of like what I like to hear. And that's why I ask the questions that I do, because when I listen to an album the first time, I enjoy it. But now I listen to it and I understand the background, I enjoy it even more. So I think that's a great story, man. That really is.
Right on. I'm glad that I saved it till now, and that I had the guys that I have, we're working together. I had the guys to do it with, to bring it to fruition. It came out better than I ever thought it would.
That's cool. It's a great song and a great album the whole way through, guys. Honestly,
Thank you.
I mean, I love it. I love it. I think it's like I said, it's something different too. It's not just the normal. Hey, this is identified as power metal. This has a taste of everything in it. And I think that's something special here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
One of the tracks that I wanted to bring up is Via Dolorosa. And I know Bill has a piece of this. And what's cool about that is you guys, not only did that, but you did the video for it too, with the lyric side of it with Passion of the Christ, which is that's, if anybody has seen that movie, you know how deep it is. And it is, it's crushing, it's emotional, it's a little bit of everything. And I thought that was really moving, the song and the lyrics. So tell us about that, because that's a topic that's, it's not touched too often. You know
Thank
what I
you.
mean? The
Yeah,
people dabble in it, but you guys, I loved what you did with this.
thanks. You may hear my dogs talk about it a little too. They're looking at people walking dogs out the window, so you may hear some of that. Now, so that was one that's kind of been on the shelf for many years. I had watched that movie, and as you mentioned, like it touched me deeply, and
Right.
uh, whether you believe the whole story or not, that did really happen to a man.
Right.
As far as the religious aspect, that's up to you. We don't push anything like that.
Right.
I have my own beliefs. I don't push them on anybody, but it affected me very deeply. And it was one of those times where, I went down into my basement because I was still in Pittsburgh and we have basements. We don't have basements in Florida,
Right.
but,
Right.
and grabbed my guitar, and it was just probably within an hour or two, I had this, I would say 80% of that song written. And then once I had it, I was just trying to record scratch tracks before I forgot it. And then I started writing the lyrics, and it's the story of the Stations of the Cross. And like, if you look in the
Yep.
lyrics, the Roman numerals to illustrate what station it is. And it just ended up that when it was time all these years later to finish it, I'm like, wow. And I started taking clips from the movie. I'm like, this really matches up well. It's almost like, this could have been a song for the movie or
Right.
something.
Right.
I wish. I'll have
Yeah.
to see if I can get in touch with Mel Gibson. But
That's right.
but yeah, it was about 80% done, and then it sat for a little while, and again, kind of like Brent with his song, I just had the right group of guys, and we finished it, and Eric came in, and I think he hit it out of the park, and
Right.
Brent's strumming is just monstrous on it. So
Mhm.
yeah,
There's
well,
no doubt
thanks.
about
I'm
it.
glad you dig it.
Yeah, that's a great story too. When you see, like I said, when you see something like that, it's so different, than like the normal things I hear. But I like that you guys brought that, to the forefront and did it with, with a lot of taste and a lot of emotion, just what, the exact story is, and bringing that to music and that piece of it, I think is really cool.
Thank you.
So that's a great song.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's definitely another one of the epics on the album. And I think that one was kind of like Bill's baby, like he was saying, like Entity's my baby. I think that was his baby. So
That is, it's really great stuff. So I have all four of you guys on here. So, I'd like to ask the question, what's it like recording? What's the recording process like for Out of Darkness? You guys, like I said, with all these different elements, tell us a little bit about that. When you guys wanted to record this album, I know everything's different nowadays. You guys, obviously people live all over the country and even out of the country, and it's, hey, drop a track in an email or do a call like this. Tell us about how you guys do that and through the process.
It's kind of a piecemeal process for this record, at least it was, because well, the first thing we did was track the drums, of course. Deadly Smedley, totally killer. He brought in
Right.
his mega epic drum kit to the studio, set it up. When I rolled in, it was already set up, but I had like a 2-hour drive before I got there. But we did the drums first at Stan Martell's studio, Martell AVP, and then we kind of had a lot of back and forth where we recorded some bits at Stan's place and some bits were recorded at Bill's home studio. He got some sweet new equipment, so we were able to kind of save a lot of time and effort by tracking it over there. And Bill happens to be an extremely talented, besides just a musician and a writer, he's an extremely talented producer as well. So he was able to get the sounds we wanted. He mic'd everything up over in his home studio, and we got a lot of it done over there, and that's how we kind of put it together and Then we got it all mixed down at Stan Martell's place at the end.
And if anybody's looking for the techie side of things, I'm a music gear junkie as well. So like Eric said, drums were in an actual studio. Some of the early vocals and guitar bass tracks were done in that studio. And then it was a combination of the owner of the studio was going through some personal stuff and we had to step away. The studio wasn't available for a few months. And that's partly why the album took so long to get out. And in the meantime, it's like, okay, well, let's make alternate plans. Let's do some of it here. So as it turned out, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, I would say 80% of the guitars, bass, and vocals were done here in a little bedroom. Yeah. And then, so, and tones wise, it was, these days we use DI tracks on most everything. Most of the rhythm guitars you hear would be neural DSP plugins. There were a couple tracks that were fractal Axe-FX. The leads were about half Axe-FX and half neural DSP. And then the bass, I forget what we used on those, some more plugins. I don't remember what we used on the bass. But yeah, so just in case anybody was technically interested.
I don't know how Bill remembers absolutely everything. I mean, he's got the memory of an elephant, man.
Got a mind like a steel trap.
That's it.
That's because I'm still in my 20s, guys. That's why.
Right.
Hey, I've been in my
That's
20s
it.
for 30 years, man.
Hey, don't change, Brent. Don't change, man.
On the writing too, as well, just to touch on that a little bit. A lot of the songs we had pretty good demos to work from.
Yeah.
A couple of the tunes of Bill's, the demos actually had he had done them with a real drummer in the past. So I had kind of a framework to work with. And then some of the stuff was done with, like, they would program the drums to give me somewhat of an idea. So we would kind of work on them like from that aspect as well. Whoever's song it was would pretty much bring a demo of it. But I think that if I remember right, Bill and Eric also worked on some of them, demoing them together and developing them a little bit more before we went in to actually record. So we did I guess you would say we did quite a bit of pre-production for it.
So you talked about, Bill, how you said there was some problems like with the studio, delayed. But you could tell that, that even those delays, it didn't even, slow you guys down, because I mean, everything, the way it came about, is, like I said, it's just it gels so nicely, to the listener, and listening to it, when I listen to it, I always keep my headphones on, because I think that's the best way, to get the feel of it.
Oh yeah.
It's so good, what you did. I mean, that's a cool story to hear, how it was recorded, and, the, being done in your house in a small room.
Yeah.
And obviously Dan's bass being involved as well.
Right. It'll be even better when Dan plays it on the next one.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm sure he's ready. I know it. I know it.
No, absolutely.
You know,
Been a pleasure working with these guys just for the past few months.
yeah, I can't wait to hear, we'll get into that later about, some of the live stuff, and I got to hear a little bit, on YouTube, obviously, but we'll get into that later. What about the writing process for you guys? I mean, you have multiple writers, and, we tapped on that a little bit earlier, but, what's the background of a song for Out of Darkness? Is it a riff, a chorus, or is it just something, Brent, I know you talked about, playing piano, and that piece. Tell us about the writing process, because I love the depth of these songs, and like I said, the different variances are so, cool, and it comes together great for, 4 guys, obviously, doing this. So tell us about that, the writing process.
Right on up. Bill or Eric, you guys want to take that?
Go ahead, man.
You do have a great story for Entity. I think you should tell him that story about how you wrote that.
Well, I mean, I pretty much did, but just to reiterate a little, I started on piano when I first started playing. I never got very far on piano. I couldn't get the thing of doing a bass line with one hand, doing a melody. So I gravitated towards drums, but that's just something that I came up with when I was a teenager, the basic the basic gist, I guess, of the meat of the song. I had it for a long time and I played it, and I knew I always wanted to record it, and I demoed it a couple times. But it had never been as developed. You know, I think that, you know, sometimes the stars align or whatever, and it's just the right time. I finally had the right guys to make it the best that it could be. And, you know, what Bill did with the outro, and he also helped trim the song a little bit as well, as far as some of the parts and some starts and stops in it as well. And then with doing the lyrics with Eric, that was you know, that was a really, really fun experience. I've never really done that with someone, so that was really a lot of fun to do it. And I knew what I wanted it to be about, but I didn't really actually write the actual lyrics for it until like, I would say maybe a week or even less before they were actually recorded. It just kind of came to me at the right time. I knew what I wanted it to be about, basically. And it's got a lot of references in it. It's kind of about reincarnation, and it plays on the idea of, you know, maybe we don't quite grasp the different life forces that are out there in the universe. Yeah, that was a really unique experience. But I think that you guys should also touch on this.
Well, I could add to what you just said. So, as Brent mentioned, he came up with lyrics. We'll call it at the last minute, but you know, not literally last minute, but towards the end of the cycle. But we had kind of a pseudo working title for that called "Standing on the Shoulders of Giants," because the song did have an old school feel, almost like a '70s feel, and into the outro section, which is more of an '80s, almost Maiden or Striper thing.
Right, right.
And we didn't have lyrics, and I had a concept of, well, let's write a song that essentially pays tribute to the bands that we grew up loving. So if you listen closely musically, you'll hear guitar licks, drum fills, vocal, you know, harmonies and stuff that are totally, you'll hear Striper and King Diamond and Halloween and Queensryche and all of this stuff. And that was the one song where we just said, you know, we're here doing what we do because of these bands we grew up with that we love. So let's,
Right.
you know, pay a tribute to them. And I was just about ready to say, hey, Brent, I got, you know, let's go ahead and write lyrics talking about this. And he's like, oh, I already have an idea. I'm like, okay, let's go with that then. So,
Right.
but musically, that was the direction we were going with it.
That's cool. That's cool.
To
How
give
about
you a
Eric?
little-
I know he's itching up there. I see him.
Yeah. To give you a little insight from my end, so like a song like Creeper, let's say, that song, to give you an idea of how the writing came about for it, I wrote the first little bit of that when I was maybe like 14 years old, you know, just a teenager on my computer with Guitar Pro, you know, started off as like a Guitar Pro tab. And then maybe the next time I touched up on that song was after the passing of my father. I remember I was like in a whole lot of distress, and this riff came to me, you know, dun, 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 dun. And I remember that emotion of distress at that moment. And you know, in my head, I just remember, you know, the sirens, ambulance, and all that crap, and that riff it just hit me, you know, the riff just hit me, and eventually I put it together with that other bit that I wrote when I was 14. And then fast forward years later to the point where we're in Out of Darkness, then we wrapped it up, you know, I finished up the lyrics, and we got all the boys together, and bam, we did it, you know. So that's how a song like Creeper came up. But then you look at a song like Terraform, you know, and that song, I'd say it was written in maybe 2 sessions, you know. I wrote the gist of the song, you know, pretty much in an afternoon. And then I didn't touch it for years until we got together with this band, and then I'd say I wrapped it up in another afternoon. So, you know, some songs take years to write, and other songs just take moments, you know. It's kind of unpredictable when you're a musician, when you're an artist, when you're trying to create something. It's just the muse strikes, and you just suddenly have a new chunk of art.
Well, John, I don't know
Right.
if you remember a band I was in back in Pittsburgh, Creature of Habit. I don't know if you remember that band at all.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I do.
So we did two CDs, 2 albums,
Right.
and ended up splitting up, breaking up before the third album. But the song Cosmic Conclusion was actually written for what would have been the third album.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's
That's cool to hear.
not lyrically, the lyrics were Eric's
Right.
idea, but musically, you know, probably 90% of that was done back then, and I just never had a band that I felt comfortable sharing that with.
Right.
And then there was Breathing Fire, which is, you know, Tim Amar from Pittsburgh, who
Right.
sadly
Right.
passed.
Right.
But yeah, he and I were working on some stuff. After I moved to Florida, and we were writing kind of through the internet, and he had sent those vocal tracks. And prior to Out of Darkness, I met Brent, and we were looking at putting a band together while he was still in Iced Earth. But when he was off of Iced Earth, we were going to try to do a band, and we
Right.
were trying to get Tim to sing, and Tim was going through some personal stuff at the time and
Right.
couldn't commit to it. And Brent got pulled back out on the road, and then, you know, a few years later, fast forward, and here we are. And we were going to have Eric redo all of those vocals for Breathing Fire. And while we were making this album, Tim passed, as you
Right.
know.
Right.
And you know, Eric actually is a fan of Tim's singing, and we just decided that, as out of respect to Tim, like, let's let the world hear what Tim did. So we left those tracks, and Eric sings a real nice bridge section in the middle that's new.
That's really cool. Yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
that was one, that particular tune, Breathing Fire, that was one that when I was getting to know Bill, he sent me some of the stuff that he had done, and I always was like, man, we need to do that one. We gotta do that tune. It's just got such a mean riff to it, man. It's just a killer tune. And I think Bill was a little hesitant because he didn't want to lose what Tim had done. So the way that it ended up being on the record, I think is killer.
agree.
That one and the Cosmic Conclusion one, that was one where it's got a real short drum intro at the beginning. And Bill had said to me, he said, what I want you to do is I want you to come up with something iconic, like an iconic drum lick. Think like Over the Mountain, Where Eagles Dare, something like that. And I mean, I don't think that, you know, it compares to those, but that's what I was going for. I was wanting to come up with something. It's like 2 measures long, something kind of unique that kicks it off. So that's what we were going for with that.
That
For
is just
sure.
some great
I like
stories.
that.
Great stories in the background of this. And I want to say, Eric, I want to say, you know, my condolences in the loss of your dad. I mean, I went through that as well. So, I mean, you know, I know how tough that is, man. It's something that just, it never ends. It's always with you, you know, and you have that piece. And, you know, the Tim side, obviously, I mean, being a Triple X fan, you know, and seeing those guys here in Pittsburgh, I mean, that guy, he delivered. I'll tell you what, and then to hear this on here, I think, you know, he's smiling down. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Happy to hear that.
A fun fact story about Tim real quick, and then we can move on, is
Yeah,
Tim
yeah,
is the
yeah.
only person I've ever seen that could eat chicken wings, and he would put a whole chicken wing in his mouth, and it would come out clean to the bone. I never saw anybody else do that.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen that either. That's
Nope.
crazy. That's a great story. Great story. You know, you guys, you know, we talked about, you know, obviously this you know, piece of the band and the new material and everything. Tell us about how you got started. You know, because like I said, you know, there's a lot of bands out there that are, you know, cookie cutter, but you guys have all these, you know, different elements. Yeah, tell us how this band got started, and you know, and how you guys, you know, a little bit how you came together. I mean, we know some of the backstories, but you know, this, you know, just to bring this unit together. Tell us
Right
about
on.
that.
Well, the way it started, I had some time off, a good bit of time off from what I was doing, and I wanted to start a band that I had more ownership of, something that would be my band rather than me playing in someone else's band and not having much artistic input. So when I went to get that going, the first guy that I found was Eric. I found him online through a mutual friend at the time. And the friend of mine was like, yeah, I think I found your singer and whatnot. And, you know, not to say that I'm jaded or anything, but, you know, I've been doing it for a while. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure the guy's great, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I listened to the song that he did. And it was a version that he had done of I Surrender. That's it's on our first record, Seize the Day.
Right.
Once I heard that, I was like, man, that boy's got some pipes. I think I can do something with that. So me and Eric hooked up. We met in Orlando, and we just went to like a local bar jam night, got up and just played like, some Maidens, Judas Priest or whatever. We seemed to have a pretty instant chemistry. So we began building it from there. And as we went on, we assembled the other pieces of the since departed guys. And that's how we formed that. Basically, the first recording though was it was me and Eric with a little help from a couple other guys. And then the band was put together. We went out and played live. We did about 30 or 40 shows. Bill came into it, I want to say, after maybe about 30 shows. So he was into it with us, I guess, in the first chapter of the band, if you will. And then soon after, as time goes on, people come and people go for whatever reason might be. But once we found Bill, we knew we had found the piece that we needed. And then after Bill, it's like, okay, then we got Dan. So now I think the band is much stronger now. It's kind of like Out of Darkness 2.0, if you will. So,
right.
And I had known Bill for years, and me and Bill actually play in an 80s cover band called The Deplorables with Dan as well. So we had known Dan, and he was the perfect guy for it. He seemed very interested in it, and to me, that's a key ingredient, much less, he's ultra talented, but the fact that he was really into what we were doing, because something you touched on earlier is one of our strongest assets, I think, is our uniqueness. The fact of being unique. It's so hard for a band to stick out nowadays because there are so many cookie cutter kind of bands, and there's a lot of, everything, a lot of stuff sounds the same. And I think that we definitely don't sound like anyone else. You can hear our influences and whatnot, but I do think that our uniqueness is our strongest asset. And to have someone like Dan be that into it, it was like, well, okay, great. And it was a very quick thing with Dan. There wasn't really any kind of audition or anything. It was just a matter of him coming and jamming with us. And I think actually Bill had said, let's go play some shows and let you get an idea of what it's really like on the level that we are, and make sure that you want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, Dan, what you want to talk about that experience in the first weekend we had on the road?
That's a story there. That's a story.
We gave him an escape plan. Let's put it that way.
There we go.
Well, the short version is I ended up having to get a whole new truck as a result of that trip.
That's a great start right there.
Bands are expensive.
So I had some of the equipment from having been kind of like the PA guy for other bands I've been in. So I had the trailer and stuff like that. So I volunteered to load up all that stuff, and because I'm a cheapskate, I've been driving the same truck for a long time and got a good tune up, ready to go, take a road trip. And we got about 3 hours into it, and I blew the motor. So, yeah. So it's like well, that was a bad first start for me. I'm thinking these guys already want to fire me. So we had to cross load everything into a rental, and we weren't late. We didn't miss anything. And I had some connections where I was able to secure my truck and our trailer with Brent's drum set that we had to leave in Tallahassee because we couldn't fit it in the rental. So
wow.
I earned a new level of respect for Brent, where he went there and literally had to jump on from a 20-something piece drum set to like a 4.5 piece trap set and still pulled off our shows. He didn't skip a beat, other than the fact that I saw him doing all the math and stuff, trying to figure out the patterns, watching the other bands, and he's thinking about each song. And all this time I'm thinking, man, these guys are ready to kill me, I'm sure. but it was a great success. The show was good. I ended up getting a new pickup truck out of it, so it was a real win. And the shows were, successful, and just looking forward to now that we've got the CD release out and we're doing, finishing up some videos, which have been a blast to do with these guys. We're looking at, hitting the road and start touring again this summer. And, I'm getting stoked. I've, played most of the songs from all the old CD, about 4 or 5 of them from the new album, and, tightening up on the rest of them. So we're going to go out there and just do the entire Out of Darkness show and just blow everybody away. Looking forward to it.
That's cool. Now that's a bass player right there, man. When he starts out, if it's something like that and has to go through all that, this guy's Mr. Dedicated.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a way to do it. Yeah, you got to have that in a rhythm section.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's I played with, not as many drummers as Brent has played with bass players, but I first met Brent back in 2017, 18, working on a side project, and instantly locked in with him. It was like, this is just this is an easy guy to play with, because like our styles clicked. I've got the Steve Harris, Justin Chancellor kind of, feel for bass playing, and Geezer Butler, and before we even talked, genres and interests, it's just like all of that just fell into place, rocking with him. So
Right.
it's been a real blast. And the same thing with the other guys too. I mean, all of our styles just kind of meld. It's just been an easy mix for me, anyways. It's been an easy blend with these awesome musicians.
I feel the same way playing with Brent. And so actually right before I moved to Florida from Pittsburgh, I saw Iced Earth. It was I forget the name of what was I don't even know if it's still there. It was in Millville. The place used to be a church.
Oh, that's Altar Bar. Is that the one you're
Altar
talking about?
Bar. Yeah, Iced Earth
Yep.
played Altar Bar, and we're there with a lot of the Pittsburgh
Great place.
metalhead buds. And
Right.
Iced Earth came out, and like I knew of Brent, I'd never seen Iced Earth before, and they just killed it. And like, this drummer's amazing. I think that was maybe 2012, probably, Brent, or was that Dystopia tour maybe?
Yeah, somewhere around there, 2010
Right,
to 2012.
Right. And then so fast forward to 2013, I moved to Florida, and I was here and getting to know people, and like I hear, oh, the Brent Smedley lives in Jackson. I'm like, he lives in this town? Are you kidding? Like, and then the wheels start turning. I'm like, okay, my mission is I need to meet this guy, become friends with him, and I'm gonna
That's
end
right.
up in a band with him. Mission accomplished. So it took a little while, but I did it.
It was funny. A funny side note, it's kind of like that movie Step Brothers or whatever. When Bill and I first met, we were showing up to kind of like start that Deplorable side gig, and he had a Steelers bumper sticker. So I was like, hey, you're from PA. We start talking. And it's like, who's ever heard of New Kensington, Pennsylvania? But that's where he's from. That's where I'm from. We were both born in 71. And I'm like,
Wow.
did I just meet my new best friend? Kind of things like that movie. Like
we were
Step
we were both born in Citizens General Hospital in New Kensington.
Yeah, like 3 months apart.
You didn't have to say 71,
Wow.
Dan.
Oh, okay.
What's funny, guys? I work at Siemens in New Kensington
Yeah.
in the Westmoreland Industrial Park. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been there
Yeah.
for 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
where all my
wow, that's
family.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
So.
really cool. It's amazing how, how they, everything aligns like this, to because obviously, man, this is a younger band, you know what I mean? And have you guys, the way you gel now, that's quick, because when I listen to this, I think, man, these guys have been around for a long time, as a band. But, to hear the stories and how this came together and to see how tight this group of guys is, and the music that you do it's amazing to hear. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you get to
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brett.
I would say the band's relatively young, but we've all been playing for a good while.
Right.
I mean, Eric is a good bit younger than the rest of us, but he's been playing since he was a teenager as well. So, our combined years of experience, even though we're fairly new as a younger band, we've all been playing for quite a while. We've cut our teeth, developed our chops, developed our style. So, and I mean, we put a ton of work into this record. I would say, honestly, I think I've worked harder on this record than any other record that I've done, especially when it came to the mixing. Normally, like mixing, the engineer, producer, whatever, would get it to a point, and then we'll come in and kind of fine tune it and whatnot. For this record, we were there pretty much every day for the mixing from start to finish. So that was a unique experience for me. I mean, I think it definitely benefited in the end result. It was a little painstaking sometimes, but it's kind of, it takes whatever it takes,
Right.
And I think the end result, like you were asking earlier, I wanted to touch on too about the reaction that we've gotten from the record. Most of the reaction has been really incredible. Some people, I think, because it's a good bit different than the first record, I would say it's a lot deeper. It takes people sometimes a little while to get into it. Like they like it more the more that they hear it, as opposed to really, really being ecstatic the first time. They'll
Right.
listen to it a couple more times, and then we'll hear from them a couple days later, like, I'm really starting to dig on that stuff. But yeah, anyway.
That's good that you're getting that feedback though, because that means they're listening and they're actually processing it. It's not just, hey, listen to it one time and but that's good to hear that that they're getting that deep into it. And guys, we talked about obviously Seize the Day, which I thought was a great launching point for you. A lot of good press came out of that. And you had obviously some radio play and did shows behind that and everything. Tell us about that. I mean, because that's to have a launching point like that, and I thought it transcended very well from that up to where you guys are now. Like you said, there are those variations, but the band sound, you could hear it like process the whole way through. Tell us about that and how that launching point was for you guys.
I would say that that record actually came together fairly quick. You know, and even though it is an EP, I still think that it's pretty varied as far as it's got the heavier stuff, it's got the softer stuff, it's got the faster stuff, it's got the slower stuff. For the fact of it being a short record, not a full length, I thought it had pretty good depth and dynamics and variety in the songs. But I think with the full length, we've just gone and done that to a much greater level, is what I would say. Plus, with the added writers and whatnot, and like I was saying earlier, the crafting of the tunes. We really took our time and made sure that the tunes were just like we wanted them. We put the time and the effort into them.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, that was a great launching point. We did get some good radio play for one tune in particular, Think Again. It charted pretty high on what they call the Billboard Rock Indicator charts. We had a partnership with a company called Curtain Call Records for a little while, and that was pretty much what they did for us. They got that song on 40 or 50 FM stations, mainly up north, like in the Chicago area, maybe. Maybe not exactly Chicago, but around that area. They did a pretty serious campaign for that. And I even had people tell me that they would hear it. Like, I think someone said they heard it in an elevator, maybe. And somebody heard it like in a store or something, just over the, over the intercom or whatever.
One of my buddies in Arizona heard it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that was good for us to get our name out there. And, then doing the shows, and we were brand new to it. So we were just trying to go out and kind of make a name for ourselves. But what we're looking to do now is come back with a pretty different show, pretty much not a completely different show. Of course, we're going to play some of the older tunes, but we're going to focus, I think, a lot more on the newer stuff and make it a different set. Me and Dan are working on a really cool bass and drum solo, a new intro. We're just looking to kind of step it up, bring the goods.
Yep.
I'm hoping there's going to be a Pittsburgh date, Bill. So you gotta come home and see the hometown boys, man. Because I'm definitely coming to see you guys.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I would like that a lot. Not in the winter though.
No. You want to stay away. You want to be here for the nice weather. You're right. There's no doubt about that. You guys talked earlier about I Surrender, and I thought that was a really cool song. Because that's actually the first time I heard you, in the video, and it's it's epic, but it has that the prog pieces that come into it, and that EP, like just Brett talked about. I think what again I like about it is the prog, but there's like a darkness sometimes to it too, about the writing, and I think that's another flavor that you bring that other bands don't. And I think it's just cool how all this just meshes together. It's not even I'm so much asking a question, but just saying, how cool it is for a listener to have something like this, to say, man, these guys, like Brent said earlier, are different. Yeah, they're in this genre, but they're taking pieces from all these different things and doing it differently than anybody has. And I think that says a lot about you guys too, as a band, because I like hearing different things, rather than just, somebody sends me a press release and like, oh yeah, the songs are cool and I love the guys, but hearing something different, it just excites the listener, I think. And
Right
you
on.
guys have done it. That's just, I just wanted to say that because it's the truth. It's the
Thank
truth.
you.
Thank you.
That's
Well,
definitely one.
and I can say, having come in after the album was recorded, I'm, kind of coming in as a listener on that too. And that's what stood out to me. It's like, it's hard to break in to the scene, in the metal, whatever genre, but, metal scene, because, there, you've got the challenge of coming up with something new that, if you're power metal or if you're in a shtick, if you're in a genre, it's like there's only so many chord progressions and patterns that you can play before you start sounding like, that same group from, 5 or 6 years ago, or that song or that riff, I mean, there's tons of YouTube videos out there where, the same riff is used on 15 or 20 different metal songs, throughout the 80s or something. And that's one of the things that I didn't hear at all with this album was, something that sounded like somebody else, I recognized it because I played with these guys before. So I recognized their styles, but nothing stood out and said, oh, that sounds just like X, or that sounds just like, whatever other band, it was completely unique and original. And I think that's the challenge coming into the scene these days, is to stand out, which is probably why people, it's not that 4/4 head bobbing, just like, the metal, kind of thing right off the bat. You're going to have to stop and listen to it because it's unique and it's different. But there's those parts that capture your attention throughout every song, so that's my take on it anyways.
Yeah,
That's right.
there's definite musical hooks in the riffs and the melodies, and there's definite hooks in the vocals, of course. One thing I think that we do is we blend, like you were saying, we blend a bit of prog with it without it really being, say, too proggy.
Right.
One thing that we've really tried to do with the songs, I call it the bounce. We try and find the bounce that song sort of calls for,
Mm-hmm.
the particular groove.
Right.
So we kind of pride ourselves on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one thing
Go ahead.
I could add is, we, as mentioned, the hooks, is we really paid attention to that. I was fortunate enough to record 2 albums at Morris Sound Studios with Jim Morris as the producer, and I learned so much from that guy. He's amazing.
Right.
But just the way he could take a basic part and kind of coach you into making it more catchy, more memorable. But an example, I think I even mentioned this to the guys when we were recording, is you take a song like I Love Kansas. So you take a
Great
song like
band.
Carry On Wayward Son, every part of that song is a hook. Even the guitar solo is a memorable hook.
Right.
And so that's why I'm like, okay, when we have these basic parts, let's come up with some little fill, whether it's a vocal fill, a guitar fill, a drum fill, or whatever. But we try to put those little things in everywhere so that when you listen to the song, you're waiting for that one little 2-second piece. You're like, there it is. And then the song continues. But yeah, we really paid a lot of attention to that.
It's funny when you just said that, Bill, and I had George Lynch on the show last summer.
Oh man.
One of my
And
heroes. Yeah.
yeah, the guy, and that was one of the things he said. He was talking about, the old Black Sabbath, and some of the stuff and how different things were hooks the whole way through these songs, and that just made me think of that when you said it.
Yeah.
So hey, man, you're in the same league.
No, no.
Thinking just like him, man. Look at that.
Thank you. I may think like him. I can't play like him. So.
So let's step off the the grid a little bit here. You know, I know you guys, obviously as artists get asked the question of who your influences, and we know, a lot of the influences, but I like to kind of step outside the box. and ask who's an influence to all of you guys that's that somebody would never think of. You know what I mean? Whether it be another genre or something that's a little different, because it all kind of ties into, this music.
Eric, he just teed you up a softball. Go ahead, Eric.
All right. All right, I'll confess. I'll confess. Besides being a heavy metal fan, yes, I'm a big pop fan. I do enjoy me some NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, Celine
That's cool.
Dion, Lady Gaga. I dig it all. Give me that
That's cool.
yeah, that Renaissance record. It's sick. So, I mean,
That's cool.
you can take some pop music, Michael Jackson, for example, and you can hear those rhythms that are included in that. Some of the chord progressions, and there's some really fascinating stuff. And not even just in pop music, but if you look at classical or jazz, I mean, there's great stuff in any genre, any and every single genre. I mean, there's something to be taken from that. And I think this band,
Right.
we're really good about keeping an open mind and incorporating a lot of the things that we like from music as a whole into this art, this metal that we make. And I think that's part of what makes us so unique. We take little chunks of everything that we're into, and we kind of mold it all together, and that's how we get an Out of Darkness record.
Yeah.
That's cool. That is cool.
So we talked early on about not really to compare ourselves to them, but being kind of like the Queen of heavy metal in such the way that Queen had very different sounding stuff. They had very heavy stuff. They had like almost
Right.
disco-y sounding stuff. They had the operatic kind of stuff. We wanted to kind of approach it like that in not really setting limits to what we're doing, not saying that Out of Darkness has to be in this particular box or has to be this particular style, but kind of leaving it open like that. So
That's cool to hear. Well, how about you, Dan? How about somebody outside the box? We'll get everybody involved in this one.
You know, my playlist, you're going to hear stuff, that's all genres of rock and roll and stuff like that. I mean, I love Jethro Tull, going, to that kind of stuff. But I think the thing that surprises people the most is like I like dark techno. I'm really into V&V Nation and stuff like that, and spent a lot of time in Germany when I was
Right.
younger, and they're just the techno bands over, or the techno clubs over there were the thing to go to. And
Right.
but I also like, uh, Stanley Clark, jazz, jazz bass, and just, um, Andreas Vollenweider, which is a jazz harp player, from Switzerland. So, my
That's cool.
tent of music is really big. It's not just metal; it's kind of full spectrum. The only exceptions are I don't like country rap. I think that's probably the one that I draw the line on, so,
I'm with you on that.
so
It's funny. I was getting gas a couple of weeks ago, and there's always some asshole that will think they need to play their music for everybody who's filling up their
Oh, yeah.
cars at the time.
No doubt, man.
And I'm
No
filling
doubt.
up my car, and there's this country song, which is not a biggest fan of country, and then I hear some female rapping over it, and my jaw probably went like this. I'm like, what is this monstrosity I'm listening to? Like, I couldn't fill up my car quick enough, and I had to get in and turn on some Megadeth just to cleanse myself.
That's right. Before you had to put the gas in your mouth. I mean, that stuff's rough, man. I
That
could
is
see
not
that.
like the Reese's peanut butter chocolate thing. They do not go together, man. No.
No.
abomination.
yeah.
It's that's the mixture of how to ruin something, ruin a song, ruin somebody's day. Maybe that's what they were after. Yeah, that's crazy. That's cool though to hear about the the backstories of what different things that you guys listen to and everything. So how about the rest of 2024 for Out of Darkness? I mean, the album's out, it's been out a month. Uh, it's getting high praise. Believe me, I'm going to be spreading the word of this thing. There's no doubt about it.
Right on.
Because I think it's a great album. And I love, that you guys, have that vibe together to where you could bring in all these different things and make it work. And to have a band like that, that has to be refreshing for all of you as an artist to be able to walk in and say, man, I'm able to bring something here, and the guys are going to accept that, and we work different things in. I think that's what's, like you said, Brent, earlier, unique about this band, and I'd love to hear a band that's doing something like this. I think it's like I said, it says a lot, and it's refreshing to hear it. It really is.
I think
Thank
if you
you.
can be in a band like this, there's no need to feel like you need to do a solo album or something. Not that the world would be looking for my solo album, because but the idea is, I would never feel ashamed, like, hey, I've got a riff, I don't really know if it fits this. I know the guys would at least listen to it with an open mind, and
Right.
maybe it's a shitty riff and it doesn't get on, but it wouldn't be because it's a different style.
Right. So I know I tracked off on that, but the question actually, what I went on a tangent there, but what about the rest of 2024? Like I said, the album's
Oh,
out.
sorry.
What do you guys have? No, that was me going off on a tangent,
Oh.
and I threw you guys off on the question. But what about the rest of 2024? I mean, what's left? I mean, what's going in to 2025? What's the plans? What can the fans look forward to?
I would say that well, we put the one video out. The first thing we put out was the lyric video for Via Dolorosa to give people a taste. Then we put out a pro shot video for Terraform. We decided to go for the jugular with that one. That one's one of the heaviest ones on the record, so we went to a different extreme. And we've got another pro shot video that we're pretty much done with. We're figuring out exactly when we want to release it, and that's for the title track. That's for Out of Darkness. So we're doing quite a bit of video promotion. We've done several PR campaigns. We're doing as many of these type of interviews and stuff as we can. And then we're trying to coordinate it all to maintain the momentum and then bring it to the people live. I think our first show is going to be, is it April 26th, Eric? Is that when it is? And that's down in Orlando. And then the plan is after that to strategically do like a grassroots campaign, maybe to saturate. We're still formulating our exact plan, but to saturate Florida and then to go up the East Coast, to take it over maybe to the Midwest, maybe all the way to the West Coast. And of course, one of the, it's not really an end goal, but one of the goals is definitely to get over to Europe. I think we'll be very well received over there. We want to get over there.
Right.
I think we get over there, it's going to spread like wildfire. So I think that's one of the things that we definitely really want to concentrate on, is bringing the live show to the people. Obviously, selling as many records as we can, spreading the metal throughout the world, throughout the universe. Just enlightening people to Out of Darkness, basically.
There's a couple CDs floating around Norway. My wife was just there, and she handed out a couple CDs to some local metal shops. So,
Nice.
it's grassroots advertising. It's getting out there. So.
Yeah, I think probably in the fall. I don't know. I don't want to say we'd go into the studio, but we'll probably start demoing some stuff for another album. I know Eric's got some ideas. I know Dan does, and I've got plenty of material. We've probably got enough material for another album already, but something we might try different is to hopefully have at least a song or two where a good portion of it is us collectively writing, because we've not really done that yet. We've had little isolated parts where, Eric and I will work on something, or Brent and I will work on something, but to be a band in a room, like the old days, it's not practical to do a whole album that way, as far apart as we are. But to maybe write a song or two like that would be nice.
That's cool. I could see that working out well, though. I mean, like I said, all you guys seem to, you mesh well, you feed off of each other, and that's a good sign for a band. And you talked about Europe too. I mean, this band would be received very well over there.
Oh yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
That's a big one.
Yep.
We'd like to take Brent over there for the first time.
But yeah, we do want to follow up this record a lot sooner than there was a longer gap than we would have liked between the first and the second album here. And that was for a number of reasons, not totally in our control, but we want to follow up in a timely manner. I think I don't want to speak for everyone, but I want to make sure that we give this record its full due. That I call it do the deal. That we really push this record. I think every song on this record is really strong. There's not really any weak songs on the record. And I think that we've got a lot to offer, and we just kind of want to use our time for the rest of the year to I guess put a button on your question, to cement Out of Darkness as a force to be reckoned with, and to create our niche in the metal community, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a good game plan, what you guys are. I mean, what you're doing right now. And like I said, I could definitely hear it exploding in Europe. Maybe Brent can even take you guys around there. He could show you all the sites and everything.
I'm sure.
So is it?
I've seen a few. Dan's been over there, and
Yeah.
Bill's been to Japan. I've never been to Japan, so
Oh, there you go.
yeah, most definitely.
There's a market to open up. For sure.
I mean, I think one of the things we would like to do, but I mean, a lot of bands are trying to do this, is open up for another band, a bigger band, say, not even necessarily somebody huge. I mean, of course, everybody wants to play with, Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, whoever. But I think we'd also be happy to play with bands like, say, Symphony X. I'm a big Evergrey fan. I don't know if anyone else really likes Evergrey, but any band like that, to hit their crowd to us, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a great fit too, Evergrey.
Yeah, we've also, one of Brent's old bandmates, but Witherfall, we've talked about maybe trying to sync up with those guys to do some shows.
Yeah,
That'd
most
be a good fit
definitely.
too, for sure.
Yeah, I really like those guys, man. Jake is a hell of a guitar player, and Joseph is an amazing singer, and I really like what they've done. I would say they're very proggy, but you can tell they finally crafted their stuff too, and they've been steady at it. I think they've got like 4 records now, and they've done some touring. But yeah, that's one that we would like to hook up with. Witherfall. We have some friends in Symphony X.
Great band.
There's a couple other bands that we have some kind of I guess I don't know if you call it low key connections with, but
Ashes of Aries.
yes, Ashes of Aries is one. Freddie and Matt. Stu, the last singer in Iced Earth, he's going to be going out with Annihilator on the Alice in Hell thing. I've always been a huge Annihilator fan. I really like those guys.
Right.
But I mean, anything like that. We're looking to play anywhere and everywhere, but we also want to make the shows really count. Some of the stuff that we did in the early days, I think it was maybe out of necessity. Some of the first shows that we did, I wouldn't call them the most important shows that we could have done. We were just kind of trying to get our feet wet. We want to try and be very smart about what we do, and make the shows count. Not that every show doesn't count, but, make them really worthwhile, something that we can build upon.
And that's a way to do it too. I mean, with the way the music business and the environment now, you have to have a game plan like that to make sure that everything that you're doing is top notch and hitting the right fans and the right core audience to spread the word. Because it's so hard to spread the word even anymore, which is you never thought 30 years ago that it would ever be like this. With how this atmosphere has changed. But,
Yes.
I wish you guys the best of luck. I mean, really, because I think it's a great band. I think you got a great product. I think the songs are more than solid, but different too. It's like I said, it's nice to have that piece there to where, hey, this is the same band, but look at the variances here and look how good it all comes together. So I think you guys are going to do very well. And like I said, I wish you the best. I really do.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it.
So guys, in conclusion, again, I want to thank you for being on Talking to Fastlane. I'll be spreading the word. I'll be making sure that my socials and everybody out there hears this. And the last thing I want to say is I want to thank you guys for doing what you do. And this is what I tell all the bands, because it's, growing up listening to this music, it's been such a huge part of my life, and it means so much to be able, like I said, to put those headphones on and be able to check out and knowing that you guys, are doing this and you're bringing this to us. So keep doing it, keep, bringing that art, because we appreciate it as fans, and I thank you so much for doing it.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. That means the world to us.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you do, man.
Oh man, I love doing it. I love being able to help spread the word and being a part of it, and being able to listen to this great music and making sure that as many people as I know hear it,
Right on.
because it's that important. We got to all work together to get this out there, because it's we can't let it die. There's no way.
Not gonna
No
happen.
way. Not
Yeah.
gonna
It
happen.
was
That's it.
AC/DC that said, rock and roll will never die.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Like Brent always says, metal lives. So
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Metal lives.
That's
We're
right, man.
alive. So metal's alive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Keep rolling, guys, and
Yeah.
you're welcome back anytime on the show. Like I said, if you have anything going on and you want to spread the word, I'd love to have you back on to talk a little more. You guys have anything new, when the tour starts or anything?
Thank
And
you,
come to
John.
Pittsburgh, man.
Sure.
I'll be
Yeah.
there. Me and Rob.
there you go.
All right. Yeah. And if Rob watches this, thank you, Rob, for the connection. But yeah, it worked
Yes,
out.
sir.
Yeah, Rob's a great guy, man. He's we supported you guys when back in the day. I don't even know if we missed the show, man. We might not have.
Yeah. No, we had
That was
good
cool.
times with that. Yeah. Fun fact before we go, Via Dolorosa, back when it was early formulated, Rob was the first person to play bass on that song.
Oh,
There you
that's
go.
cool.
Yeah, when we were
Cool.
demoing it in my basement. Yep.
That is really cool. Good story. He'll definitely hear this, believe me.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks for
Yep.
for joining
Take it
me on the
easy.
show,
Thank you, John.
and best of luck, man.
Good to
Out of
see you.
Yes, sir.
Darkness, everybody. This is a great album, so get to listen to it.